The League of Women Voters does not support or oppose any candidate or political parties. Tonight's forum is being taped by the League for presentation on our YouTube channel and on other channels as identified. The purpose of this forum is to hear from the candidates on why they want to be mayor of Sedona. It is also an opportunity for candidates to answer questions that have been submitted by you, the voters, prior to the forum. The goal for this forum is fairness, civility, and engagement. I would like to introduce our timekeeper for this evening, Marie Help. She is sitting down in the front row. Her role is to keep us all on time. She has 3 signs: a 1-minute sign, a 30-second sign, and a stop sign. She will raise the 1-minute sign, then the 30-second sign, to tell you how much time you have left. And then she will raise the stop sign, at which time you need to finish the sentence that you're speaking. This forum is divided into 3 parts. The first part is opening remarks. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to introduce themselves to the audience. They will also have 2 minutes to answer a question provided by the League of Women Voters, and 2 minutes to answer questions provided by the Greater Sedona Chamber of Commerce and the Sedona Lodging Council. Part 2 is questions submitted by the public and the voters. The League of Women Voters has solicited questions from the public prior to the forum. These questions have been compiled and organized for the moderator to ask at the forum. If your question does not get answered, I encourage you to contact the candidates separately. Finally, closing remarks. The candidates will have 1 minute to give you their final remarks on why they want to be Sedona's mayor. As we get started, I also want to go over guidelines for the forum. The moderator's role is to manage the forum fairly for the candidates and the audience, with the goal of keeping the discussion moving forward. We ask 4 things of the candidates: be respectful of each other's points of view, speak your mind freely, do not engage in personal attacks, and do not interrupt one another. The audience is asked to refrain from applauding or in any other way demonstrating support or non-support for the candidates and their comments. Time limits on responses to questions will be strictly observed. The moderator has the responsibility for enforcing these time limits. If these guidelines are not adhered to by the candidates and the audience, the moderator will adjourn the forum. Now I would like to introduce the candidates running for mayor of Sedona. They are in alphabetical order: Brian Fultz and Harry Silberger. Thank you, Henry. Thank you very much. The candidates will speak in order drawn prior to the forum. We will rotate the order of answering the questions, and closing statements will be in reverse of opening statements. So let's begin the forum with opening statements from the candidates. The candidate will be given 2 minutes to introduce themselves to the audience and address what motivated you to run for office, and what perspective would you be bringing to the council. And we're going to start with Brian.
Good evening. My name is Brian Fultz, and I was elected to the Sedona City Council 4 years ago. I currently serve as your vice mayor. My wife Amy and I are 21-year homeowners in Sedona, and we've lived here full-time for the last 5 years. Prior to running for City Council, I completed the Citizens Academy program and served on the Community Plan Update Working Group. I'm active at my church, where I serve as an adult small group leader. I enjoy volunteering at city parks and rec events, such as Celebration of Spring, and I've also volunteered with other area organizations. I enjoy hiking our trails, and I'm an avid mountain biker and have the scars to prove it. Like most of us, I first came to Sedona as a visitor and fell in love with the Red Rocks and the friendly locals that I met, and that led to my desire to live here and to serve here. I ran 4 years ago because I saw myself having a unique skill set and experience base, one that involved leading teams with different interests and priorities. I've lived in and owned a business in a tourist town, Orlando, Florida. My small business ownership experience has led me to developing expertise in digital marketing, which is highly relevant to our tourism economy. I think those qualities are still valuable, but now I would add the benefit of serving for 4 years, of really learning how municipal government works, including the budgeting process, of building relationships throughout the state. I've made mistakes, owned them, learned from them, and it's made me a better leader and public servant. I believe this makes me well qualified to serve as your next mayor. The biggest lesson I've learned in 4 years is how critical communication is, and in particular, how difficult it is to get messaging uniformly shared throughout the community. It's why I propose to my council colleagues that we shake things up and meet the community outside of City Hall, which is what we've begun doing with our Community Conversations program kicked off in April. I really want to see us enhance how we gain input from the community so that it occurs well before the 11th hour when we're considering important topics to the community.
Thank you. Henry?
Thank you for all being here. My name is Henry Silbiger. I am not a Republican and I am not a Democrat. I never ran for public office before, but what I have been my entire life is an independent thinker and a problem solver. My journey began in Poland when my family immigrated to New York in 1960. In 1966, I became a proud citizen of the United States. I was translating for my parents by the age of 7. That early responsibility taught me the true value of listening closely, communicating clearly, and standing up for people who need a voice. Later, I built a successful specialty packaging company from the ground up, serving iconic American brands. I achieved that success by doing 2 simple things: listening to people's needs and managing disciplined budgets. But today, Sedona is at a turning point. We are facing rapid development that threatens our small town character, ongoing traffic gridlock, and major projects that move forward with too little community input. Sedona deserves a practical, collaborative approach. Our local leaders must remain actively engaged, deeply informed, and truly accountable to the people who live and work here. I have always been a problem solver, a successful businessman, and a collaborative leader. My leadership style is built entirely on communication, transparency, and thorough evaluation. That means I will completely understand the scope and impact of a project before acting. Currently, Sedona has a critical problem. The current council isn't listening, yet they want your vote again. We all know that listening is what builds trust. I am here to listen, and I am here to serve.
Thank you. The next question will be 2 minutes, and it is from the League of Women Voters of Northern Arizona. What is your vision for your community over the next decade? And how would you balance development with preserving your history, local character, and quality of life? And Henry, we'll start with you.
My vision for Sedona over the next decade is a community that protects its red rocks, dark skies, and small town character while growing thoughtfully, where families feel at home, local businesses thrive, and residents enjoy a vibrant art scene. We must cut red tape and simplify processing to allow attainable housing to be built, but only with strong design standards and that respect our land, views, and unique character. We can also work regionally for housing solutions. The Sedona Cultural Park is a perfect example. I see it as a true community sanctuary with open natural spaces, unobscured views, room for a farmer's market, and an open-air gallery for local artists. By limiting spending on projects that do not benefit the residents, we can fund and build a world-class recreation center to be enjoyed by all. I see the Dells as the next area to be developed as a modern outdoor revenue for performing arts and special events. This area should also include pocket housing and ecological community gardens to preserve our environment while fostering local sustainability. We will tackle traffic with persistence. We'll optimize our shuttles, thoroughly review the feasibility of our new connector roads or innovative transit solutions, ensuring that new development never outpaces our infrastructure. Finally, we will bring real discipline to City Hall. No more spend because we have it. Fewer outside consultants, strict competitive bidding, and a requirement for public votes on major projects. 10 years from now, I want Sedona residents to still enjoy the peaceful, beautiful community they chose to call home. As your mayor, I will lead with open communication and the principle that residents all come first. Together, we can restore Sedona's promise. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian?
Over 18% of our housing is now short-term rentals. We've lost friends and neighbors due to this. 80% of our workers commute. Enrollment in our schools is down 50%. This is not okay. So I saw a need for a real housing strategy, and my council colleagues agreed with me. As a result, we're now rolling out what's known as the Balanced Housing Strategy. This plan calls for the development of 775 housing units over the next 10 years. It includes a mix of housing targeted specifically for seniors, so that folks who've lived here for decades have opportunities to continue to live in Sedona as long as they desire. It also has targets for housing for workers with families, so that we can try to reclaim half of that lost enrollment in our schools. The goal with workforce housing would result in 70% of our workers commuting instead of that 80% figure. So overall, this is a modest and pragmatic plan, one that recognizes that not everyone can live in Sedona or that everyone even wants to. It includes a mix of rentals and ownership products, starter homes, townhomes, apartments, varying price points, and specific targets in terms of the number of bedrooms so we can achieve the plan's overarching goals. Sedona has a unique sense of place, and it can't be diluted by this plan. So yes, building height matters, density matters, materials, colors, and massing all matter. We can't wildly run over what makes Sedona special that has historically been incorporated into our land development and building codes. This won't be the urbanization of Sedona, as my opponent likes to fearmonger. I think that continuing to develop transit solutions is also important to minimize traffic and resultant quality of life impacts. As such, I believe we should be working with Yavapai County supervisors and Camp Verde to extend the Verde shuttle to the VOC, down to Camp Verde, and looping back through Cottonwood.
The next question is 2 minutes, and it is from the Sedona Chamber of Commerce. Now that the City of Sedona is the destination marketing and management organization, how will you partner with Sedona Chamber of Commerce to support small businesses? Brian, start with you.
During my time on council, I believe I've been building a quality relationship with the Sedona Chamber of Commerce. This includes regular interaction with the Chamber's CEO, as well as numerous board members. To that end, one way I'd like to expand the relationship is via a joint council and chamber board meeting, at least annually, like what we've done with the school district board. This would provide a public forum for both entities to explore where there are opportunities for the city to further support our local economy. Coordination to me is a really key word when I think about this question. I don't want either entity to be spending money in a redundant capacity. I would like to see that there is coordination amongst the DMMO and the chamber when it comes to how Sedona is promoted. That takes into account each organization's websites, the ad campaigns that are run, and the data that is shared. I think the city's tourism department is doing an excellent job serving data to our business community, and look forward to that only getting stronger. One way to do so is for our business community to share anonymized performance data to help the tourism department get as close to real-time intelligence as possible about the state of our economy and make appropriate marketing adjustments. The other key area that I would like to talk about is quality over quantity. One of our local business leaders has coined the phrase, "Less done better is more." I believe the city and chamber should explore that idea together, with the goal of having a healthy economy that doesn't rely on gaining more visitors this year than we had last year. Rather, how can we foster a healthy business environment by attracting visitors that spend more in our galleries, retail shops and restaurants, stay longer in our hotels, use our transit, and demonstrate the highest respect for our Red Rock country?
Thank you. Henry? Of course. Now that the City of Sedona is the destination marketing and management organization, how will you partner with the Sedona Chamber of Commerce to support small businesses? You're welcome.
Now that the City of Sedona has assumed the role of the Destination Marketing Management Organization, we have a profound responsibility to ensure tourism management directly benefits the local businesses that give Sedona its authentic character. As a public servant and a former business owner, I know firsthand when our local businesses thrive, our entire community thrives. As mayor, I will treat the Chamber of Commerce as an essential strategic partner, not an afterthought. I will establish regular, direct communication between the mayor's office, city staff, and the chamber. We must be aligned on economic priorities, and the chamber deserves a meaningful seat at the table when major marketing and event decisions are made. Our focus must shift from simply increasing visitor numbers to driving targeted foot traffic directly into local shops, galleries, restaurants, and service providers. For example, my vision for the Sedona Cultural Park includes hosting farmers markets, artist demonstration, and cultural events designed specifically to bring people into town and into your establishments. Furthermore, supporting small business means getting the city out of your way. I will cut the red tape, streamline permitting, simplify municipal process so it is easier and less expensive to operate a business here. Finally, I will assist on strict financial accountability for every tourism dollar. Marketing must deliver measurable economic results for our residents and local merchants. I look forward to building a strong, practical partnership with the Chamber to protect and support the small businesses that are the true backbone of Sedona.
Thank you. The next question is from the Sedona Lodging Council. Given the importance of Proposition 100 or 400 Home Rule to the future governance and financial stability of Sedona, can you explicitly state whether you support or oppose the measure and explain how your position will influence your decisions and actions as a city leader if elected? Henry, first.
As a public servant, my job isn't to dictate how you should vote on Proposition 400. The choice between maintaining or shifting away from home rule belongs entirely to you, the voters of Sedona. There are excellent information seminars being held around town right now, and I truly encourage everyone to attend. Hear both sides and make the choice that feels right for our community. What I want to give you tonight is peace of mind. Sedona is going to be just fine either way. Despite some of the stressful rhetoric going around, neither outcome is going to bankrupt our beautiful city or plunge our neighborhoods into chaos. Our essential service will keep running smoothly, and our vital local nonprofits will still receive their funding, and daily life will go on. Across Arizona, over half of the cities operate without home rule, including neighbors like Cottonwood, Clarkdale, and Scottsdale. They all function wonderfully, and we will too. There is no crisis on the horizon. Instead of letting fear drive the conversation, I believe we need to talk honestly about how we care for our community's resources. Because of our robust tourism industry, we are incredibly blessed with tax revenues. But as I look around town, it isn't always clear that you, the residents who love and live in this community, are getting the true value you deserve from the spending. Unlike current leadership, I want to see our city budget strictly optimized to lift the quality of life from the people who live here, protecting our fragile Red Rock environment, maintaining our trails, and creating real workforce housing for the hardworking people who sustain our local economy every single day. We are a resilient, passionate community. We will survive and thrive under either system. I will bring leadership that listens, protects our home, and always keeps the focus on you. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian?
I support home rule as the budgeting model for our city. It has successfully been in place for decades. In the 4 years that I've been on council, we've had a balanced budget every year. In fact, we've run a surplus. We've used those extra funds to pay off debts early. We've built pickleball courts and made other parks investments for our residents. We've purchased conservation land along Oak Creek and built up a housing reserve. We've built miles of shared use paths and increased funding for our trails. We've increased funding for the arts by more than $250,000 annually. We've also increased funding for community service partners that all of us value greatly, like the Public Library, the Community Center, the Humane Society, Verde Valley Caregivers, and more. We've monitored expenses too. Did you know that the cost of our city staff is 42% of our operating budget? That compares to a national range of 50% to 70% and more. And during these 4 years, our cash and investment balances have increased by over $58 million to nearly $100 million. My opponent calls this outstanding financial stewardship a fiscal imbalance. That's because he and his council slate mates are backed by an anti-home rule movement. Go look at their shadow website, sedonareset.org. You will see that they are supposed to tell us they neither favor or oppose home rule, yet all their website content is anti-home rule. Folks, that's an abdication of leadership. They are willing to put at risk a $97 million budget that could drop to $36 million without home rule. They have one particular group of supporters, supporters that believe $12 million is more than enough as a budget for Sedona. Do you want to put at risk so much of what makes Sedona special? The arts, our trails, the library, the community center, and not to mention public safety. My opponent and his slate are either naive or dangerous. Either way, it's too big of a risk for Sedona.
Thank you. The next question will be 2 minutes. What is your understanding of the council manager form of government? How would you balance supporting the town manager's professional expertise with the mayor's responsibility to provide leadership, represent the community, and help set policy direction? Brian?
How much time on this one? How much time?
2 minutes.
2 minutes? Okay. This is pretty easy because I've been living in this environment for the last 4 years. It's very simple. The city council serves as a board of directors. The mayor is merely the chairman of that board. We get together, we set policy, we deliver that policy to the city manager, and it's the city manager's responsibility to see it enacted. We also have responsibility for the city attorney and the city judge, but that's it. And as we've found in past experience, it's critical that the mayor does understand his place or her place, because it is just one vote out of 7. And we, I believe, as a council have worked very effectively providing direction to our city manager and to staff. And there's really no mystery here, folks. We provide direction, staff carries it out. Thank you.
Thank you. Henry?
One more time, I'm sorry.
Sure. What is your understanding of the council manager form of government? How would you balance supporting the town manager's professional expertise with the mayor's responsibility to provide leadership, represent the community, and help set policy direction?
To effectively serve the residents of Sedona, the relationship between the mayor and the city council must be built on collaboration, transparency, and a shared commitment to putting resident well-being above all else, not voting 7-0 every time. Because the mayor is one vote on a 7 council member, true leadership means building consensus and not demanding compliance. Here is how I will work with the city council to achieve the absolute best results for our community. For too long, local governance has felt out of touch with the everyday people who live here. My priority will be aligning the council around the unified standard. Every policy, budget item, and development project must be evaluated by how it directly impacts the daily lives of Sedona residents. Collaborative goal setting. I will propose early strategic workshops with council to establish clear resident-centric benchmarks for city's agendas, prioritizing traffic relief, environmental stewardship, and physical responsibility. The role of the mayor is a little bit more than what Brian gave you. The mayor is the official head of the city government and wears many hats, serving as the political leader, the chairperson of the council, and the chief representative of Sedona to the outside world. Presiding, the mayor runs the city council meetings. This involves setting the agenda in a collaboration with city mayor, managing the flow of debate, enforcing decorum, and ensuring the meetings are efficient, transparent, and respectful. The voice of the city, the mayor, is primarily spoken for Sedona. Where it is speaking to the media, representing Sedona at state and national forums, or collaborating with regional bodies like Yapavai and and Coconino counties, the mayor represents the collective will of the city.
Thank you. The next question is 1 minute. There are many challenges facing Sedona, including transportation and workforce rehousing, which require regional cooperation. What role should Sedona play in regional initiatives and work with neighboring communities and regional partners to address these challenges? Henry, you're first.
Okay. So, sure. Again, you're going to have to repeat your question. Got the mic on this time.
One more time.
There are many challenges facing Sedona, including transportation and workforce housing, which require regional cooperation. What role should Sedona play in regional initiatives and work with neighboring communities and regional partners to address these challenges?
Sedona is the diamond of Arizona. Because of the influx of revenue that we have a great say in what is going on. We should partner with Camp Verde, with Cottonwood, with Clarkdale, and create a transportation system that will involve all of us so that people can get here, get to work, and not worry about getting home. Kind of stuck on this one, folks. I'm sorry. I got to pass on. I'm sorry.
Ryan?
So there's already a number of mechanisms in place to accomplish the question that we've been asked. There's the Northern Arizona Council of Governments. I happen to be the city's regional board member to that organization. There's also the Verde Valley Regional Economic Organization and the Verde Valley Community Development Organization. Those organizations provide opportunities for the city to participate and be involved right now, talking with the other communities and making plans for how to do things like utilizing a land trust, how to extend transit. So that is something that I've been involved in and look forward to continuing to be involved in. And I do think that Sedona needs to be willing to take a leadership role when they see a gap or that they see that there's not quite the interest or the pull from some of those other entities. And I think a great example is on public transit that does exist already in the form of the Verde Shuttle, but for which we need to expand the partnership beyond Cottonwood or with Cottonwood, but also to Camp Verde. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is 2 minutes. How does the city of Sedona currently communicate with the public, and what should be the priorities for improving communication and public engagement in the future? Ryan?
So right now, there's a few mechanisms available for the community to be aware of what's going on. You know, there's the basics of, we put ads in the paper about community meetings and things like that. You can go on to the city's website and you can sign up for any number of categories in which you can receive emails that will inform you about new developments and meetings and opportunities to get involved. But I've clearly seen that that's not enough. And one of the ways that I've responded to that need was recommending to my council colleagues that we develop a process where we're meeting with the community outside of the chamber. And we did that starting in April with our first community conversation event. And that was attended by about 70 people, and we all sat at individual tables, and we had a couple of key questions that we worked on that night, like what would make it better for Sedona families, what would make it better for Sedona seniors. We've got upcoming meetings planned in September where the topic is going to be, let's talk about a recreation center, and also let's talk about fire safety. So those are the kinds of opportunities I think we have to improve, but there's still more. And I think improving through our website and a redesign that we've approved to make it easier to find information is going to be key. And then We've also certainly received a number of recommendations about things like producing a community calendar for all events and not just what the city's involved in. And I also think that we should be, providing opportunities for the community to be involved in a working group where they can help guide and identify some opportunities where we can improve our communication. So it's a challenge, and we've seen it over and over again. We've got to do a better job of making people aware, particularly of big votes that are coming up, so that folks are knowledgeable and not just showing up at the 11th hour and saying, I haven't heard about this before.
Brian, I'm glad to hear that you're going to do something now. You've been in office for 3.5 years. We're in an election year, and now we are going to engage the community. The community doesn't know enough because the Sedona website is totally confusing. Melissa Dunn will tell you, she's a Microsoft person, that says it needs to be revamped. How many of you here actually knew that the cultural park was bought? How many of you had an actual idea? Good for you. How many of you had an actual idea of what the cost of the Forest Road and the parking garage was going to be and where it stands now? What are we doing for the residents, Brian? We're not giving them enough information to understand anything. But what we can do to the residents is we can sue you because we don't want to give you a voice. We want to make sure that our agenda goes through, and that's the way it should be.
Thank you. Audience? The next question is 2 minutes, and we'll start with Henry on this. What leadership experiences have you had that you feel qualify you for this position? Talk about your leadership philosophy. What is your experience with fiduciary duties and municipal budgeting? And how do you measure your success with these responsibilities?
Okay. That's a good question.
That's a good question. Because I'm bringing a new perspective, bringing fresh ideas into the mix, I may very well be talented with directional imagination that I can carry into the future rather than be stuck with the solutions of the past. By that, I mean, I created a company from scratch. I built it into a multi-million-dollar company. That experience alone will show me how to work with people, to develop programs, to get an understanding, and to make sure that we spend our money accordingly and for the citizens, not as a want, but as a need and an evaluation for it. My experience as far as litigation can't be as good as the city of Sedona. They've been sued multiple times, so I would imagine that the council understands what lawsuits are. You know, they were sued by the residents up on Forest Road. They were sued for, the city wanted to give them $1.2 million to avoid the lawsuit. Now, you're not aware, they wound up giving him $2.2 million, okay? So they understand that. Fan, who did the excavation for the garage and for the road, is also suing the city. And if that doesn't help you, an ex-police commander is also suing the city. So lawsuits are the city's backbone. I'm going to make sure we don't get sued and not have a situation where litigation is the main thing of our city. Thank you.
Brian?
I would appreciate your reading that question again as well.
Certainly. What leadership experiences have you had that you feel qualify you for this position? Talk about your leadership philosophy. What is your experience with fiduciary duties and municipal budgeting? And how do you measure your success with these responsibilities?
Thank you. So I've been in leadership roles since I was just out of college at age 22. In fact, when I was 23 years old, I was working for GE Appliances in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in a little dishwasher plant that had been ignored for the previous 25 years. I was 23 years old, and I was managing about 100 union workers who were losing their jobs because the plant was finally being shut down while I was there. learning how to try to motivate people who are losing their jobs is pretty darn hard. It takes a healthy dose of empathy, and it certainly takes a lot of backbone. So that's certainly been informative. I've also started up businesses, and they've been successful. I've started them up in this country and in Japan, in fact. I've had fiduciary responsibility as a P&L leader for a global company. From an overall public fiduciary experience perspective, I've got 4 years with the Sedona City Council and going through the process. And it's rigorous, folks. It is not for the faint of heart. Our budget books are a couple hundred pages deep, and it takes multiple days to go through all that. And I have the ability to read, to understand, and to apply what I've learned in my business experience and then translate that into the municipal experience, which is extremely different. There is no question about it, and I'm reminded of that regularly. In terms of my leadership style, though, what I really want to say here is I've always felt that the people who work for me need to be treated like volunteers. The second that you treat them like they just simply work for you and they should be grateful that they have a job is the minute that you lose trust and the relationship that is so critical for having people aligned and all heading in the same direction. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is 2 minutes. If Sedona voters do not renew home rule and the city must operate under Arizona's state expenditure limitation, what changes would be necessary to the city's budget, services, and long-term priorities? Brian?
If home rule is voted down, the first option is to request a budget override, and that would happen in May of next year. And there's no guarantees that the voters would approve that. So to your question of if we actually have to operate under the expenditure limit, that means we're going to go from a $97 million budget like we have for the upcoming fiscal year to a $36 million budget. Half of that $36 million roughly is already determined by state requirements, the things that the state says you must provide. It doesn't say how well you have to provide them, but you have to provide. Okay, so there's still going to be police, but there's going to be a fraction of the police available. And the programs that so many of us value, the community service partners, the ones I listed off earlier when we talked about this home rule question of the community center, the library, the recycling center, their funding is gone. Like there is no saving a little bit of it. And the money that we spend on the arts, it's gone. Whether that's the monies that we've now been putting out in large grants for the film festival or for the art center or artists in the classroom, it's gone. And so is a majority of our staff. And the other problem that you have is if you vote out home rule, now you create tremendous uncertainty for our staff. And if you've never attended Citizens Academy, I can't recommend it strongly enough that you should go learn about how our city operates. It would benefit you, Henry. And when you do that, you will find that we have such an amazing quality of staff that those folks are going to leave, and we will suffer for that. So it's draconian if we have to go to the level of the state expenditure limit.
Okay. If we go to no home rule, we've got a $97 million budget, but we really have $36 million for necessities, which will stay. The rest of it is for capital improvements. The city of Sedona and Brian's group wants to buy the Brewer Road offices. They've put in $49 million to buy a property that is worth 6.8 by Coconino Real Estate. They also want to put in a transit hub. Why? It's $32 million, yet our city survives on all our buses and all our transportation for $662,000 a year. We contract it out. It handles the repairs, the maintenance, the drivers, and all necessary insurance, including liabilities, so we're clear. This way, we don't get sued again. And I know our litigation is good, and we know how to handle lawsuits. So we're down to $36 million, and that $36 million is not a problem to be handled. What you're hearing is 30 years of what's been going on. You've heard about cities that survive without home rule, that have no home rule. And the big part of that is the city council has a habit, and they proved it in their December 16th, December 16th council meetings that they call a retreat. In the 54th minute, they said, let's get an agenda together, let's create a crisis then, and then let's send in our champions to handle it. The way this is set up, unless you all go and understand both options thoroughly, we'll have either 4 years of home rule again, and if you think about it, maybe we'll have 4 years of no home rule. And by the way, that home rule, no home rule is not on my slate.
The next question is 1 minute. Over the past several years, there has been increasing state involvement in areas traditionally governed locally, including zoning, housing policy, and municipal revenues. How should local government respond to this trend, and what approach would you take to protect local decision-making while working within state law? Henry?
Well, there's a lot of questions there. Let's talk. We want to talk short-term rentals. It's a big issue. Short-term rentals, there's not a lot you can do about. It's governed by the state. We have to do what we can to mandate it. What we would try to do is turn around and put a moratorium or a grandfathering of no more short-term rentals. As far as tax collection, again, we want to hang on to everything that we bring in, and we hang on to most of it. If the state decides that they want to take our revenue, we'll have to go to the state, and we'll have to understand why, and then come up with a proposal that might make that stop.
Thank you. Brian?
So there's definitely a movement afoot downstate to take away local control, and it definitely focuses on land use as one particular category. And so we have to be practical and pragmatic here about not creating such barriers to allowing housing or other commercial development to occur that it would cause the state legislature to remove that local control that we still have. As it stands now, the state usually looks at that at communities of, say, 75,000 or more. But if we do anything that creates a red flag that says, hey, Sedona's lost their mind and they're making it impossible to build any kind of housing, then we run the risk of losing local control. We're very fortunate that we don't have a food tax or a rental tax in this city because that local control has already been taken away. Best way for us to keep being involved is our participation in the Arizona League of Cities and Towns, and that is our advocacy organization. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is 2 minutes. The Western Gateway Plan envisions future development, transportation improvements, housing opportunities, and community amenities in Sedona's western entrance area. What aspects of the plan do you support? What concerns do you have? And what would be your priorities for implementation? Brian?
That is an 800-pound gorilla question. There is no doubt about it. And the survey that we recently conducted certainly gave a lot of input about things that the community does want, right? And we heard, I think, pretty clearly that there's a desire for open space, that there is a desire for gathering areas, for festival grounds, and there's an interest in a rec center. So those are things that I think we need to pay attention to. And given the size of the property and the amount of money that was spent, there needs to be something in it for our residents. We do need everybody to feel like they have benefited in some way from that purchase. So those primary areas that were referenced in the survey, I'm very much interested in seeing how we can ensure that those are well incorporated into that property. Concerning a rec center, I'm not certain that the Western Gateway is the best place for it, but I'm definitely interested in exploring it, and that's something we're going to be doing in the very near future via council meetings, so stay tuned on that. Even going back to the original development plans for the Western Gateway or Cultural Park that go back over 25 years, there was a vision that there would be arts, that there would actually be some housing. I do support that. I'm very supportive of the Sedona International Film Festival relocating there and stated that very clearly in public meetings. So I'm excited about that. In terms of a amphitheater, a resurrected amphitheater, as people like to talk about, I've been very clear in saying that I believe the council should know what a business plan looks like. The council should know what are the pros and cons, should know how would you manage traffic, how would you manage parking, how would you manage noise, and is it something that can be mitigated satisfactorily for the benefits of the community? So we are in the process now of getting that kind of input. Thank you.
Okay, the cultural park was bought on December 26th at night. Did you guys know all about it? We paid $20 million for it, $10 million in cash, $10 million in bonds, and over the next 15 years, $3 million in interest. So it cost us $23 million, and nothing's happened to it over the last 4 years. What did happen to it was Brian was a proponent of putting in a homeless car park, which doesn't work. It didn't work in San Francisco. It didn't work in Seattle. It didn't work in Portland. It actually didn't work in San Luis Obispo, but we were going to do it because we know better than the citizens. Well, a referendum went out, and that got squashed. 64% of the citizens said no, so that was done. Well, along we go on a trail, and here we go again. We're going to put housing up there because we've gone to digs, and we've shown you 7 stories. We've shown you 5. We've shown you all sorts of beautiful stuff. And the citizens said, no, we don't want that. So they went out to get an initiative to stop it. Well, they didn't know that in July of 2023, our beautiful council went to attorneys in Phoenix to draft a suit if necessary. Well, guess what? They put out this questionnaire, I'm going to call it, that was very convoluted. They only got 1,600 responses. And at the end of the day, the citizens said, we don't want housing. They got the initiative. They were ready to put it on the ballot. And guess what they did? They got sued. Why? Because they want to do housing at that property. And the city of Sedona does not. The people do not. So they sued us. They took away our right to vote. I don't find that to be the right thing. And I don't care if they tell me, well, I didn't do it. My attorney told me to do it. That's ridiculous. You started in July. So the Gateway should remain a cultural park.
The next question is 1 minute. What role should the city of Sedona play in addressing workforce housing needs? And what strategies would you support to increase housing options for the local workforce and year-round residents? Henry?
Well, first off, we have to define workforce housing. We get all sorts of information. Tony Adler says, we need 755 units for Sedona to accomplish whatever it is. But in March, he said our housing exceeds our residents. So I'm not sure what the right number is. I'm not sure how many of these workforce housing and what people they want it for that actually want to live in Sedona. My proposal would be to do an independent study, independent questionnaire where the workers aren't afraid to answer and ask them, do you want to live in Sedona? Why do you want to live in Sedona? Why don't you want to live in Sedona? It's easier to commute from Cottonwood. It's a beautiful commute. For any of you that have commuted in the United States, 18 minutes to get to work is nothing. And we are not, it's not our job as a city to create all this workforce housing. Where are the businesses? Where are the hotel owners? Where is everybody else coming to help Sedona? So I ask you, don't ask Sedona, because Sedona is going to ask you what you can do for Sedona.
Ryan?
I think I've answered this question pretty clearly so far, so I'm going to use this time to point out that, Henry, you have been speaking mistakenly on more points than I think I have time to enumerate right now. For one thing, we said no to 5-story buildings and 500 units at the cultural park. And we have never approved a purchase of the Brewer Road office, and we have not approved the construction of a transportation and operations center out at the Dells. So you're making a whole lot of assumptions, and you're asserting things that just simply are not true. And you're saying that we started a lawsuit process in July of 2023. I've heard you say that twice this week. That's almost 3 years ago. There was no initiative. Okay, whenever you make that up, that's fine. But we've got a plan for workforce housing. It's our balanced housing strategy. I hope everybody gets excited about it and supports it over the next 10 years. Thank you.
The next question is 2 minutes. The future of Sedona will always have tourism. What does that look like to you in the next 5 to 10 years? How would you balance the benefits and challenges associated with growth in tourism, business activity, and population in Sedona? Brian?
So earlier on this evening, I mentioned that catchphrase from a business leader friend of mine of less done better is more. I think that is a core part of answering this question. It's not about, how many more people can we attract? How can we facilitate going from 3 million visits to 4 million visits to 5 million visits? I don't think any of us want that. So I do believe we need to be thoughtful about how do we curate the experience in Sedona that attracts people that are going to respect the land, that will use public transportation. One of the things I think we need to be doing is to start promoting Sedona as a you don't need a car to visit here kind of place. Let's have more transit options to get from Sky Harbor to Sedona. We've already got requests from the community saying, you know what, we like that on-demand shuttle you have. Let's get that expanded to 7 days a week and throughout the city limits and expand the hours of the day. So there are ways that we can actually not accommodate more, but accommodate better. And I think that that's really a key piece. I want to see the business community and our residents feel like they really are part of one and the same community. I want to look for opportunities where we can have residents and businesses interacting together as community. One of those ideas I have is a community dinner in Uptown, and it's something we could do on Jordan Road, similar to how we have the St. Patrick's Day Parade, and have an opportunity for the restaurants in Uptown to serve the community out on Jordan Road as one big community block party. So those are some of the things that I think about, that we've got to work on building back a sense of community across all segments of who and what Sedona is. Thank you.
My platform is built on a simple, unwavering principle. Resident well-being must always take priority over tourism expansion and developer interests. If our own residents can't freely get around town, the system is fundamentally broken. To fix this, we must first maximize our public transit. We need to optimize our current transit system so visitors can comfortably leave their cars behind and navigate our city without adding to the gridlock. Second, we must explore alternative bypass and access roads to divert traffic away from bottlenecks. But I promise you this, I will not force these routes on anyone. I will sit down with every single neighborhood to discuss options and ensure access roads do not negatively impact your backyard. True leadership also means preparing for the worst-case scenario. We must drastically improve our early warning systems and thoroughly review our evacuation procedures, not just for residents, but for tourists too. If a disaster strikes and thousands of visitors don't know where to go, we are all in serious trouble. And the Uptown Garage is not making it a lot easier for the residents of Uptown. The current council has failed to make this life-saving preparation a priority. Yes, they had zone breakdowns and they gave you numbers and magnets that don't fit on most refrigerators. I will change that immediately. I will integrate advanced AI-driven wildfire monitoring and technical high-tech early detection systems. Finally, we cannot solve Sedona's problems by silencing Sedona's voices. We will have another cultural park situation where the council makes sweeping decisions behind closed doors when this community gets involved. Its voice is loud and clear. And as your leader, I will never file a lawsuit to silence the people I represent. We are blessed to have residents among us who spent their careers managing complex environmental issues. I will engage with them.
Thank you. We've now reached the time of the forum where we're going to do closing statements. We will begin the 1-minute closing statements with Henry, since he spoke second on the opening statements.
Got it. Was just forgive me, folks. I got so much paper. Where's myself? Okay. Hate doing this, but I got to do it. Too much paper. Closing statements.
Well, you've heard what we have to offer. You've heard a residents first platform versus, well, we're going to do more because we didn't do this. We're going to have meetings with you because we never had them for 3.5 years. We promise we won't sue you again. We will look for reasons to work with you to create better understanding. But in the end, you won't create anything. You'll do the same thing you have always done, which is make a decision, not really involve the citizens, no care what's best for Sedona, because this council knows what's best for the Sedona. Look at what they've done. Look at the money they spent. They want to put in a rec center. But I've heard, oh, it's too much money. But if you didn't do half the harebrained things you've done and spent money on things that make no sense, you'd have money. So I will make sure that you're aware and that any expenditures that go on over any amount of money, over 5, 10, 15 million, the residents will know about it.
Thank you. Brian?
Tonight, I've shared my vision to build back our community, primarily with our balanced housing strategy that I prompted. I've shared my understanding of the challenges of communicating city activity and how that resulted in my idea for what has become our Community Conversations program. I've shared how our city council has been good stewards of city revenues and some examples of how that money has been and continues to be invested for the benefit of everyone that lives, works, or plays here. I've been working hard for our community for more than just my 4-year term on council. I've built relationships and figured out how to get things done in our city government. It's true that the mayor is just 1 vote out of 7, but the mayor does serve as a figurehead for the city, in the region, and at the state level. I believe I have the insights, the experience, apparently the organization, and the temperament to serve our community best as your next mayor. I joked 4 years ago about being a rocket scientist and that our problems didn't necessarily require one on council. Today, I believe Sedona needs a rocket scientist as its next mayor. Thank you.
I believe that.
In conclusion, I would like to thank the candidates for your participation in the forum and to you, our audience, for your attention and participation. Remember, Election Day for the primary election is July 21st. The last day to register to vote, to change your party registration, or update your address is June 22nd. Ballots will be mailed, and the first day to file an early ballot is June 24th. Completed ballots can be returned by mail or dropped off at an election location in Sedona or at the county election officers. Again, thank you to our candidates for being a part of the forum, and to all of the voters, please remember to vote. Voting is people power. Thank you. We're going to take a short 15-minute break and set up for the council forum.
And co-hosted by the Greater Sedona Chamber of Commerce, the Sedona Lodging Council, and the League of Women Voters, Northern Arizona. My name is Mary Chiquen. I am a member of the League of Women Voters, Northern Arizona, and your moderator for this evening. For over 100 years, the League of Women Voters has been a nonpartisan, activist, grassroots organization that believes voters should play a critical role in democracy. We are a recognized force in molding political leaders, shaping public policy, and promoting informed civic participation. We empower voters and defend democracy through advocacy, education, and litigation at the state, local, and national level. The League of Women Voters does not support or oppose any candidate or political party. Tonight's forum is being broadcast on the League YouTube channel and other social media outlets for future viewing. The purpose of this forum is to hear from the candidates on why they want to be a Sedona Council member. It is also an opportunity for candidates to answer questions submitted by the voters prior to the forum. And just so that you know, the questions that are submitted by the voters, the candidates have not seen ahead of time. The goal of the forum is fairness, civility, and engagement. I would like to introduce our timekeeper, Marie Helt. Her role is to keep us all on time. She has 3 signs: a 1-minute sign, a 30-second sign, and a stop sign. She will raise the 1-minute sign, then the 30-second sign to tell you how much time you have left, and she will raise the stop sign to signal you that the end of your sentence. The format for this forum is in 3 parts. Part 1 is opening remarks. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to introduce themselves to the audience. Candidates will also have 2 minutes to answer a question from the League of Women Voters and 2 minutes to answer questions provided by the Greater Sedona Chamber of Commerce and the Sedona Lodging Council. The candidates have received these 3 questions ahead of time. Part 2 is questions submitted by voters. The League of Women Voters has solicited questions from the public prior to the forum. These questions have been compiled and organized for the moderator to ask during the forum. If your question does not get answered, I encourage you to reach out to the candidates directly. Part 3 is closing remarks. The candidates will have 1 minute to give their final remarks on why they want to be a Sedona Council member. As we get started, I also want to go over guidelines for the forum. The moderator's role is to manage the forum fairly for the candidates and the audience, with the goal of keeping the discussion moving forward. We ask 4 things of the candidates: be respectful of each other's points of view, speak your mind freely, do not engage in personal attacks, and do not interrupt one another. The audience is asked to refrain from applauding or in any other way demonstrating support or non-support for the candidates and their comments. Time limits on responses to questions will be strictly observed. The moderator has the responsibility for enforcing time limits. If the guidelines are not adhered to by the candidates and the audience, the moderator will adjourn the forum. Now I would like to introduce you to the candidates running for Sedona City Council. They are in alphabetical order, and I would like to mention that Lita is unable to be with us this evening, and she apologizes for that, but her father fell and broke his hip on Tuesday night and had surgery, and she is in Phoenix with him. The other candidates then are Jean Bouillet, Melissa Dunn, Rich Gay, and Tony Hauserman. The candidates will speak in an order drawn prior to the forum. We will rotate the order of answering the questions. Closing statements will be made in reverse order of the opening statements. I would now like to begin with opening statements, and the first opening statement has been provided by Lita, so I am going to read that into the record. Good evening, Sedona. My name is Lita Boyd. I am sorry that a personal family emergency prevents me from being with you in person tonight, but I am grateful to the League of Women Voters for the opportunity to share my vision with you. I am running for City Council because I refuse to accept the status quo as the best we can do. For too long, we've allowed a bureaucratic mindset to replace vision. Bureaucracy is safe and static. It's where innovation goes to die under red tape and circular meetings. But Sedona doesn't need more managers of the status quo. We need builders. My career is defined by one philosophy: be a doer. I don't just identify problems, I build teams to solve them. As one of the founders of the Verde Valley Regional Economic Organization and the Wine Consortium, I've proven that when you align people around a common vision and take action, you create the future you want. My connection to this community is rooted in grit. When I moved here in 2003, I couldn't find a home I could afford in town, so I bought in Cottonwood and commuted to Sedona for a decade to build my business from the ground up. I know what it takes to persist. Over the last 4 years, I've watched our small town character sidelined. I am running because residents first isn't just a slogan to me, it is a governing mandate. When elected, I will audit our city budget to rein in wasteful spending, end the litigation against residents at the cultural park to create a true arts destination, accelerate our wildfire safety initiatives, and prioritize traffic strategies that actually provide relief and just not more roundabouts. We are at a crossroads. We can continue down the path of the last 4 years, or we can restore accountability and transparency. I bring the perspective of a founder, the experience of a resident, and the grit to end this cycle of empty promises. I am Lita Boyd, and I ask for your vote on July 21st. Let's put residents back at the center of our government. Thank you to the League of Women Voters Northern Arizona, the Sedona Lodging Council, and the Sedona Chamber of Commerce for this important conversation. Thank you. And now we will turn to the other candidates for their opening statements, and we will start with Rich.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Rich Gay, and thank you to the League of Women Voters, the Sedona Chamber of Commerce, and the Sedona Lodging Council for sponsoring this forum. My wife and I moved to Uptown a little over 4 years ago because we were drawn to the same things that bring so many people here: the Red Rock landscape, the open spaces, the trails right outside our door, and the genuine small-town vibe. Sedona was the place we knew we wanted to put down roots and spend the rest of our lives. What motivated me to run is a simple belief that the people who live and work in this town every day deserve a stronger voice in the decisions that shape it. I've watched too many important choices move forward with what feels like limited real input from residents. That doesn't have to be how local government works. My perspective comes from a career spent managing large, complex projects and leading operations teams. I know how to bring people together, ask the hard questions, control costs, and deliver results that actually hold up over time. Those same skills, clear planning, accountability, and a focus on practical outcomes are what I want to bring to City Council. When I'm elected, I will work to make sure residents have timely information, genuine opportunities to weigh in before big decisions are locked in, and a council that treats their day-to-day experience as the most important measure of success. I'm grateful for the chance to be part of this conversation tonight, and thank you.
Hi, my name's Tony Hauserman, and my professional background is I was an airline pilot for 29 years for FedEx. Prior to that, I was a naval aviator. I used to fly in the backseat of F-14s off the USS Nimitz, based in San Diego. 26 years ago, I moved to Sedona with my young family, and I'm bringing you the perspective of not somebody who's come here after he had a career somewhere else or a family somewhere else. My time here in Sedona was raising my family. Both of my kids went to West Sedona School. They both went to Red Rock High School. I worked my job the entire time that I've lived here until last year when I retired. When I first got here, I wanted to be part of the community and get involved. And so the first thing I did was go to the police department and volunteer to help with the removal of unwanted reptiles from people's yards and garages and houses and so on. And, you know, I did that for about 10 years. I was also a Rotarian here for 16 years, which was a lot of volunteer work. I was the PTSA president of West Sedona School. I've sat on 2 different city committees. I was on the wastewater treatment effluent committee. Doesn't sound glamorous, and it wasn't, but, and I'm currently on the uptown parking committee. I've also been a coach here for 12 years. I've coached our youth in soccer and football, and I've also been a referee for youth soccer here. So my commitment to this community didn't just start when I was deciding to run for this office. My commitment to this community has been going on for 26 years. And I would be honored to take the next step and represent you as a city councilor. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Jean Bouillet. I've been a Sedona resident for 30 years. I actually graduated from this school in '99, so don't worry, I won't sing to you today. I haven't been on the stage for a while, but I own several businesses in Sedona, a Sunset Chateau, which is a small B&B up on Sunset, just above the park. And I also have a real estate brokerage, a accountancy firm, and I'm also a financial advisory. So kind of a broad spectrum of business experience. What motivated me to run is largely my children. I want them to grow up in a Sedona that's as special as the one I grew up in. And I want to hand this community to the next generation in better shape than we found it. The sense of stewardship, the desire to leave a legacy worth being proud of, that's what drove me to step up. For the past 2 years, I was on the city budget work group. And what I saw was very concerning. There were very poorly structured budget proposals, spending decisions that were driven a lot by ideology more than sound planning, and a city government that lacks vision and project management discipline that a community like ours deserve. As a business owner and a financial professional, I work with numbers and accountability every day. I know what a sound budget looks like. I know what it means to be responsible with other people's money. And I know that Sedona residents deserve a council member that will ask the hard questions and demand real answers. The perspective I bring is simple: fiscal discipline, transparency to our residents, and a commitment to involving our incredibly talented community in how this city operates. And a long-term vision that puts residents first. I want to improve the way the city plans, spends, and communicates with the people that actually live here. Sedona is my home. It's where my children are growing up. And I'm running because I believe we can do better for them and for all of us.
Thank you. Melissa?
So I think the big question is, why am I running again? It's because I love this community, and I believe Sedona can be more than a second home market, a resort town, or a place where people come to retire. I believe Sedona can be a thriving, connected, resilient community, one where the people who live here feel seen, supported, and proud of the future we're building together. Over the past 4 years, we've made real progress. We've strengthened our quality of life, improved our community health, and managed the pressures of high tourism on a small town infrastructure. There's still more to do, and I'm not ready to step away from that work. So what do I bring? Experience and understanding. After 4 years, I understand how the city works and how state laws shape what we can and cannot do locally. That knowledge matters when the issues are complex and the stakes are high. Commitment. This job takes time, energy, and patience. I'm willing to put in the hours to learn, to listen, to ask hard questions, and to keep a long-term view even when the short-term pressures are loud. Diligence. I am fact-based. I separate personal feelings from data. I do the work to verify the information. I'm not afraid to change my mind when new facts emerge or when someone brings a better idea forward. Growth is not weakness, it's responsibility. Transparency. I mean what I say, and I say what I mean. I explain the why behind my decisions because trust is built through clarity, not slogans. And so here I am, choosing to run for re-election, not because the work is easy, but because this community is worth every ounce of effort. I believe in Sedona's future, and I believe in what we can create together. Thank you.
Our next question is a 2-minute question. It is from the League of Women Voters of Northern Arizona, and Tony, you will answer first. The question: what is your vision for our community over the next decade? And how would you balance development with preserving your history, local character, and quality of life?
Well, my vision is both looking backward and looking forward. Looking backward, I can remember when we had wine festivals, jazz festivals, we had the Taste of Sedona, we had Oktoberfest here, we had 2 different elementary schools, West Sedona and Big Park, plus the charter school. We had 550 kids in this high school. On my street alone, there was 11 kids. Today, there's none. Our high school has been cut in half in size. Big Park is closed. I believe that we are losing our soul. We're losing who we are as a community. And I think we need to take strong action and fix that. How we're going to do that is through housing initiatives. We need more stratified housing here, so not just apartments and not just mansions on the hill, but everything in between. When I was young, I lived in an apartment. I lived in a townhouse. I've lived in a 1,300 square foot home with a young family. And I don't believe that we need to be afraid to have people that are in the beginning stages of their professional careers move into our neighborhoods with us. And looking forward, I would like to see the Sedona in Motion projects continue along with the housing so that we have more shared use pathways, more sidewalks connecting our neighborhoods. We can bring some of these festivals back, especially if we can establish a good festival space, because Posse Grounds is getting too small for some of the events we like to do. But we can get tourists off the road through continue building our shuttle system. And I have like 4 more minutes I could do on this, but the ladies tell me I have to stop, so.
All right, thank you. I think my vision is simple. I'd like to protect what's irreplaceable, grow in ways that serve our residents, and give the community members a real voice. On preservation, to me, above everything else, we need to protect our view sheds. We can't be doing high-rise developments or dense developments that change the character of the town. We need to protect our water supply, and we need to protect our small town character. That also means a rigorous review of any development that threatens what makes Sedona worth living in. On growth, I'm not anti-development at all, but I'm pro-resident. I think we need to fix roads, prioritize projects and events that help us get through town and manage what we have more than focusing on getting more people to live here. You know, sometimes that means saying no to a vanity project that looks like a good idea but doesn't actually benefit our community. On civic participation, I'd like to have residents to have more than 1 vote every 2 to 4 years when they're voting for a council member. I would like to push to restore the citizens' vote on our community plan that we lost when we dropped below 10,000 people, on large capital projects, and on decisions that shape the city long-term. It's not a radical idea. I think that's how democracy is supposed to work, and especially in a small community like ours. Sedona's next decade should be defined by choices we make together, not imposed on us by outside developers or a council that's lost touch with the people it represents. Thank you.
Melissa?
I envision a vibrant Sedona, a place where families, entrepreneurs, artists, seniors, visitors, and everyone in between can thrive, lifted by the beauty of the Red Rocks and the spirit of this community. To protect what makes Sedona extraordinary, our land development codes must continue to ensure buildings blend into the landscape rather than dominate it. Updating the development incentives and guidelines for affordable housing, commonly called the DIGA, will help us keep density low while creating affordable homes that fit the future we imagine for Sedona. And reviewing our zoning laws will help us stay aligned with modern needs and the way our community actually lives, works, and grows. A true Park Once culture with shuttles and shared use paths will let both visitors and residents spend less time in cars and more time enjoying the place we love. It's a path toward a greener, more sustainable, more resilient Sedona. We also have the chance to explore how WeCom's high-speed broadband might help us diversify our tax base and broaden our community in meaningful ways. And as we look ahead, we should keep strengthening our identity through festivals, community spaces, and shared experiences that celebrate our history, our creativity, and the stories that make Sedona unlike anywhere else. At the heart of all this is a simple truth. Together, we are Sedona. And together, we can shape an inspiring future for the place we call home, a future worthy of the landscape that surrounds us and the people who make this community extraordinary.
My vision for Sedona over the next decade, it's a community where the open landscapes, trails, our dark skies, and the genuine small town feel are preserved even as the town evolves. Balancing development with what we value means being intentional about the kind of growth we allow and where it happens, protecting open space, respecting neighborhood scale, and not overwhelming our water and sewer systems. But before we can solve the issues facing our town, we first have to change the culture at City Hall. Too many residents feel that staff and council pretend to listen and then do whatever they want anyway. The root of the frustration is the lack of real dialogue before major decisions are made. We will fix this by holding regular town halls with genuine two-way conversations, training city staff to be supportive and helpful, and implementing a net promoter score system so every resident interaction is measured and we're held accountable. Once that culture changes, we can make real progress. We need to cut red tape and reduce complexity in the land development code. We should reverse last year's decision, supported by Councilors Dunn and Fultz, to double development impact fees. Indeed, a Red Rock News article in 2023 estimated between $100,000 to $200,000 of rules, review, and fees are added to the cost of every home built in Sedona. The city's own rules and fees are the biggest reason new housing cannot be built affordably. We also need to right-size city staffing and spending so our budget serves the real needs of this small community. When we change the culture and make these practical changes, Sedona in 2036 can grow without losing what makes it special, where people who live here year-round still feel like this is their town. That's the balance I want to deliver as your counselor.
Thank you. The next question is 2 minutes. It is from the Sedona Chamber of Commerce. And Jean, we will start with you. Now that the City of Sedona is the destination marketing and management organization, how will you partner with the Sedona Chamber of Commerce to support small business?
Thank you. Well, I just want to say when the city took on I've been in the hotel universe for 24 years, and so I remember the switch well. And when they took on the DMMO role, it didn't just take on a marketing function; it took on stewardship of how Sedona is presented to the world, and that has very direct consequences for all the small businesses in our town. The city's done a really good job of bringing visitors here. But I do feel that certain industries and sectors have been left behind in our messaging. Galleries, retail shops, and certain businesses that just don't fit neatly into a bucket. The Chamber has a really deep, broad relationship across our entire business community and has a wide cross-section of members. I'd like to see their engagement grow, not just as a relic of the old arrangement about bringing in tourism, but as an essential voice for sectors that the city's marketing underserves. I think the partnership could be a powerful tool to identify gaps in our messaging and develop strategies that lift all businesses in our town, not just our hospitality sector. Beyond marketing, I think the city also needs to seriously improve its process for starting new businesses. Right now it's cumbersome, it's slow, and it's expensive, and you could wait months before you get the permits needed to open your doors, even if you have everything in place and you're paying a lease, but you just can't get the city to get everything through. That's not a message we need to be sending to entrepreneurs who want to invest in Sedona, and I think the Chamber could be a great partner in reshaping how the city becomes a help rather than a hindrance to our local businesses.
Thank you. Melissa?
The Destination Marketing and Management Organization is just one part of a broader strategy to support our business community, but it's an important one. The marketing arm of the DMMO is already working closely with the Chamber and the Lodging Council, and City Council has been very clear. We are targeting higher income visitors who stay longer, dine out more, and spend more in our local shops. That's how we strengthen our economy without increasing volume. But marketing is only one strategy. We are also investing in housing and family support so more employees can actually live in the city they serve. We're improving public transportation, making it easier, faster, and more affordable for workers to get to and from their jobs. And we're building visitor park once transportation, like the business circulator, so people can move through Uptown to Lakapake, Hose Ho, and Hillside without circling for parking and getting stuck in traffic. And honestly, these services help residents just as much by making it easier for us to enjoy our restaurants and businesses without the hassle of driving, parking, or navigating visitor congestion. As we move forward, we'll keep learning what works and what needs refinement, but the goal is clear: a strong business community and a resilient city, supported by smart, connected strategies that reinforce each other: marketing, housing, transportation, and quality of life.
Thank you. Rich?
The city taking on the role of destination marketing and management creates a strong opportunity for the city and the chamber to partner more effectively in supporting small businesses across Sedona, not just tourism, and the full range of local shops, restaurants, services, and professions that keep our community running. As your counselor, I would push for real working partnerships with both the chamber and the lodging council, because close coordination is critical right now. Without it, we risk continuing down the path of becoming just another overcrowded tourist trap, something Sedona is increasingly being viewed as. Strong partnerships give us the best chance to manage visitation responsibly and make sure that tourism-related decisions consider the impact on residents and avoid negatively affecting the quality of life for the people who live here. At the same time, we can still support the local businesses that depend on a healthy visitor economy. I will also advocate reassigning an existing staff position to serve as a dedicated advocate and problem solver for residents and businesses when they need help navigating permits, have questions, or just get stuck in the system. When the city works together with the chamber and the lodging council with clear roles, shared data, and a practical focus on making it easier for small businesses to succeed year-round, we can build a stronger local economy while protecting the small-town character that makes Sedona special. That's the kind of partnership I want to help build.
Thank you. Tony?
For me, it's all about collaboration. We had an unfortunate divorce, if you will, between the city and the residents and the chamber some years ago. But under the new leadership of the chamber and new leadership on the city council, they have begun to rebuild that relationship. And when we think about the chamber and the businesses that they represent and support, we need to remember that the chamber has been an integral part of our community for a long time, before we were even a city. Our very first fire chief was hired by the Chamber of Commerce back in the 1940s. Our first fire truck was funded partly through the efforts of the Chamber of Commerce raising money for that. When COVID hit and our businesses were destitute, it was the chamber that worked together with the city to develop a safety plan and to get that safety plan out to the businesses. The chamber produced marketing materials that the businesses could hang in their windows. They reached out to tourists and let the tourists know that it was safe to come here. And the effort that they made collaborating with the city to the tourists, to the businesses, and to the employees who now could feel like it was safe to come back to work because Sedona was taking the pandemic seriously and we were open for business. That took our businesses from destitution to climbing out of a hole to the success that they're at today. And that all happened through collaboration. So my view on this is that that has to be a priority. We need to have an open door. We need to listen to what the chamber says they need. And once again, I got the flag, so I'll stop.
The next question is 2 minutes. It is from the Sedona Lodging Council, and Melissa, you'll be first. The question is, given the importance of Proposition 400 home rule to the future governance and financial stability of Sedona, can you explicitly state whether you support or oppose the measure and explain how your position will influence your decisions and actions as a city leader if elected?
I'm voting yes on Prop 400 because home rule has allowed us to get real work done. With home rule, we approved more than 80 decisions improving parks, recreation facilities, and community events. We built 11.9 miles of shared use paths, repaired 32.7 miles of residential streets, authorized trailhead and on-demand shuttles, diverse housing options, and higher fines and fees for short-term rentals. We invested in our community, $350,000 in small grant funding, with 40 to 60% going to arts and culture nonprofits, plus another $200,000 for SAC and SIF. We provided major support for our library, recycling center, community center, Humane Society, VVCC, Historical Museum, and Hope House through service contracts. We strengthened public safety by authorizing evacuation planning, emergency sirens, better police radios, and hiring an emergency coordinator. And we made more than 20 decisions to reduce noise and air pollution, lower heat impacts, and increase shade. We approved citywide heat mapping, purchased creekside land, and took other steps to protect the place we love. Most of this cannot happen without home rule. We also tightened more than 10 fiscal policies, saved over $100,000 in interest payments, added more than $58 million to city reserves, and launched a performance metrics audit working group. Fiscal responsibility and home rule go hand in hand. The real conversation should be about how we spend our money, not whether we're allowed to spend it. And state law does not let us put individual projects on the ballot, which we can do. What we can do is send out budget surveys, and we do. If reelected with home rule, I'll keep focusing on community, environment, and accountability. I'll continue funding the core services we rely on and supporting the arts, culture, and human service nonprofits that make Sedona stronger.
Proposition 400 on home rule is an important structural question for Sedona's future governance and financial management. My position, and that of the Sedona residents' first slate, is neutral on the measure itself. We believe this is a decision that belongs to the voters, and we will respect whichever outcome they choose. What matters most to us is maintaining strong fiscal discipline and right-sizing city government, regardless of which legal framework is in place. Over just the past 9 years, Sedona's city budget has grown by 271%, an average of about 30% per year, while our year-round population has remained relatively stable, and so has tourism. I am committed to bringing real discipline to city spending, and changing the trajectory of this unsustainable growth. If voters choose not to consider home rule, it won't be the end of the world. A no vote would not create sudden chaos or immediate budget cuts, as some have suggested. The budget that will be in effect for fiscal year 2027, which starts in a few weeks on July 1st and goes through the end of June next year, that budget will have been passed by the current council. So a no vote would not create any immediate change. The city would still have practical options going forward. In fiscal year 2027, again, starting in July, Sedona could pursue a permanent base adjustment, which would permanently raise the city's expenditure limit with voter approval. The city could also use one-time overrides for specific needs in a given year. Either approach would require careful planning and, yes, voter approval before the start of fiscal year 2028 in July. My commitment remains the same either way. We will work to reduce unnecessary spending, eliminate wasteful programs, control the size of city government, and ensure Sedona's budget reflects the real needs of our small community rather than unlimited growth.
Thank you.
I know I'm not on the residents' first slate, and I know they like to tout transparency. So I'm going to show you what transparency looks like. I'm absolutely positively in favor of voting yes on the home rule. I'm going to vote yes, and I encourage all of you to vote yes. In fact, even if you don't vote for me to put me in office, I still want you to vote yes on the home rule. Home rule is essential to, it's our money. It's not fiscal responsibility to vote no on home rule. It's fiscal self-sabotage. We'd be foolish, frankly, to vote no on the home rule. Is there going to be some immediate effect? Well, Rich is right when he says that the budget's going to be in place for a year. What he's not right about, though, is yes, there is going to be some immediate impact. All of the employees for the city, I want you to imagine if your job was, you just got, your salaries potentially just got cut, and the only way you're going to continue to have a career is if the city that just voted to cut your salaries is going to give you a reprieve each year. If that was your job situation, would you stick around for that, or would you start shopping somewhere else? And so that impact's going to be immediate. I recommend that we vote yes on home rule right now. 2 years from now, we go for a permanent base adjustment, which is a PBA, and the cities that have a PBA right now basically project out for 20 or 30 years. They add 3% for inflation, compound that out over the distance of their estimation, and now they're done with it. If we, 2 years from now, did a PBA that projected out for 20 years, we wouldn't have to mess with this again for 20 years. And so I would very much like to see us go down that road.
John.
Yes, I'll be honest, even though I'm on the Lodging Council, I don't like this question too much because I believe it's an attempt to further polarize a situation that hasn't been presented with great accuracy. This year, I've seen a lot of home rule. It's been 20 years that we've been promised PBA would be on the ballot, and it never has. And I'd say this is probably the most strongest fear-mongering campaign I've seen from both sides in all the 30 years I've lived here. As Rich said, if home rule fails, the city will continue operating under home rule authorization through the end of fiscal year 26-27. So that gives us a full year. There is no fiscal cliff. And a no vote, I believe, is a clear message from residents that they've lost confidence in the council's ability to manage their money responsibly. It gives the incoming council a full year to demonstrate accountability, present a more responsible budget, and put forward either a one-time override or, better yet, what I think would be the solution I've been looking for 20 years is a permanent base adjustment that gives the city stable, predictable funding without handing it a blank check. To be clear about the numbers, the lion's share of the city's budget is capital projects, not city operations. According to the 2025 audit, our budget was about $32 million, nowhere near the $100 million figure being used to threaten voters and say that's what we need to run. Whether home rule passes or fails, I'd immediately push for a comprehensive reassessment of how the city spends its money. Every contract, every staffing level, every project. Voters have extended their trust to the council, and that trust has to be earned through demonstrated value, not rewarded with a blank check for pet projects.
Thank you. Audience? We're now going to move on to the questions received by the league from the voters. The candidates have not seen these questions, so they are getting them all cold at this time. Rich, we're going to start with you on this. The first question is 1 minute. What changes, if any, would you support to improve communication between the city government and the public? Can you provide one specific example of a transparency initiative you would advocate for during your first year in office?
This is a great question, and it's sort of at the core of our platform, and this is giving residents a voice. This is a real problem in the current culture at City Hall. I spoke about this a little bit earlier, but residents who take the time to engage, and I see a few of them in the audience tonight, but the people that take the time to engage are dismissed. They're sometimes derogatorily referred to as sidewalk engineers or NIMBYs or several other different terms that I wouldn't use here. There's a sense among some staff, there appears to be a sense among some staff that responding to residents takes time away from real work. That mindset needs to change. I believe resident input should be welcomed, not treated as an inconvenience. We've got an extraordinary amount of talent and expertise among our residents, and we need to take advantage of that. I would work to bring back citizen commissions as a formal way to tap into resident expertise on key issues. These commissions used to exist in Sedona, provided value input on everything from planning to transportation, budget, parks, and reestablishing them would give residents a structured, meaningful way to contribute. The councils would report, or the commissions would report to the council, not to city staff, and they would be enabled.
Thank you. Tony?
First thing that needs to happen is that website needs to get fixed. My God, that's, if you go on that website and try to find something that you're looking for, it's difficult. And so that's the face of our city government, and it's the place that people are going to go to when they have a question on their mind. Maybe there's not an article in the paper that day, maybe the city didn't send out an email to their email list that you're on. And so when you have a question, the first thing you're going to do is go to that website, and that website needs to be fixed. That would be my first thing. I would like to see us continue with the meetings that we have with the citizens. I'd like to see us do a little more city articles in our local newspaper. And I think these things are going to move us a little forward, but the bottom line is, if people are not paying attention and trying to be involved, it's tough to spoon feed them, honestly.
Jean?
Thank you. To me, I think a lot of things need to be presented in a more simple manner. The city website is an obvious point of pain, but even if it was redone to be more searchable and easier to find things, the fact of the matter is a lot of things are just difficult to understand. It's kind of requires that you almost know something about the industry that you're trying to find information on. An example is a couple weeks ago, we were at a forum at Keep Sedona Beautiful, and they were asking how the city should message the community about the fact that the end of next year, everybody who hasn't changed their lights outdoors to be dark sky compliant will start getting fined. And I said, I haven't spoken with many people know that that's coming. And on the city website, it's just a land development code page. That's the only thing that we have. So I actually just made a simple website to help people. But I think overall, a lot of times the messaging is too complicated and too much in legalese, and we just need to make things a bit simpler.
Thank you. Melissa?
So we won't go into the website. I've built search engines. It needs some work. I also know that when I started, I said I wanted to do town halls, and I sat at the library 4 hours a week, 2 times during the week, several hours for over 2 years, and very few people ever came to come and talk to me about the things that were bothering them or ideas they had. So I don't know what the best way is. Certainly we need more outreach in the community, and we need to find ways to do that. And I think council needs to go out there, not just staff, and we need to find out what is going on at the community level. So I think there's a lot of conversation here, and that is actually one of the community conversations we want to have, is how do we communicate better together?
Thank you. The next question is 2 minutes. Tony, you'll be first. Tourism, new businesses, and population growth contribute to Sedona's economy and community vitality, but they can also create pressures on infrastructure, housing, traffic, and natural resources. How would you balance these competing interests as a member of the City Council?
Well, actually, that's the main reason I'm running. The Sedona in Motion projects are designed to do just that. The fact of the matter is, we have 3.4 million tourists that come here every year. We have 3 roads, and they all meet at the same place at the Y. That's a problem. That's a geographical problem that we can't solve. What we can do, though, is try to mitigate the problems that creates. And one of the ways is through capital improvements. So I want you to think back of what it used to be like driving southbound from Flagstaff when you hit about the Dairy Queen. The amount of time it took to get from the Dairy Queen to Uptown could routinely be an hour and a half. And that's gone away. Why? Because we now have 2 lanes that go southbound through Uptown. We have O&B bypass. And those things have made a significant improvement. And so then if you add the Forest Road extension and our last spring break that we just had, and the fact that driving down Cooks Hill at the peak of that spring break, you could get in that left lane and you could pretty much cruise down the left lane and then turn left on Forest Road extension and never touch the Y. Those types of capital improvements cost money, which again is why we need to vote for home rule. But capital improvements, and the other thing is building out our shuttle system. Our on-demand shuttle system and a routine shuttle system with greater frequency and more reliability so that tourists can come here, they can park it in a hotel, the hotels can advertise to their guests, hey, you don't have to drive. We have a reliable shuttle system that will take you to the trailheads, it'll take you to points of interest, it'll take you to the business centers in town. And so by getting cars off the road and by capital improvements, okay, I'll stop, is how we need to do that.
This is, I guess, one that's close to me on both sides of the table. I think, firstly, we need to just continue the efforts that we've already undertaken to attract tourists that stay longer, they spend more, and they're going to be able to not just be rushing around to the few sites that everybody wants to see, which does help quite a bit when people are here for longer. It's not much the same mad rush to just see the chapel and Tlaquepaque and Devil's Bridge. We do definitely need to work on improving infrastructure. There have been studies done for other possibilities of internal roadways in town to help underserved areas where they can have bypasses. I think we can certainly work with ADOT to rethink the why. There's really some, I think, solid opportunities to improve that and also improve the shuttle service to areas. And I know some of it's in the work, but there could be even more to really take a look at which areas are underutilized, which ones are well utilized, and to only have shuttles, consistently, but also in areas where they're going to have good ridership. So I think in those areas we can try to keep our numbers of visitation not exploding, our number of residents not exploding through artificial means, but still have good balance between businesses doing well and residents having a good quality of life.
Thank you. Melissa?
So I've touched on this a little bit. We're a small town, and our infrastructure is out of a small town that has to handle a big city. And so public transportation has been one of the things that we've been working on. I talked a little bit about the business circulator. I also would love to see something like a landmark circulator that takes you out to the chapel instead of parking all over the chapel. Maybe go up to the airport so you can get up and down Airport Road during sunset and sunrise. There are just a lot of things we could do with transportation. But there's other things that we have as well besides park once and then get around. We have to continue building out our shared use paths so that we have a way of getting connected through our neighborhoods, not with cars. That would be great. We also need to look at land preservation. So we have bought some creekside land, the city has, in order to preserve the creek. And we need to be able to think about that reasonably, because that's also something where tourists like to go, right? So when we talk about things like bypasses, roadways that go over the creek, I worry that we're just creating another scenic byway like 179 and that they're going to want to go over the creek and stop and take pictures. So we have to think about the unintended consequences of all the things that we do. Water conservation, we keep being told by Arizona Water, lots of water, no problem. I find that hard to believe in Arizona. So we need to find ways of thinking about what do we do for water conservation, whether it's irrigation or the use of gray water or whatever it is. I think that there's a lot of pressures that get put on our community because of the volume of people that are coming to visit us, and they're not all coming to stay. They're coming here as day trippers from the valley. So we need to be able to handle both of those situations And I think we need to think about the long-term strategies around the preservation of our community and its resources.
There's a few things to unpack here. The first, I would also speak to the traffic on the roads. This is something all of us deal with. We have to plan our days around it during the peak season. I've been enjoying the past week or two not having all of the traffic on the road, and I'm sure you guys have as well. We need to have a better shuttle connection service. We've got a pretty good one to Cottonwood. We need to connect Camp Verde. We need to connect the village. Camp Verde and Cottonwood help us particularly with workforce, but if we could get that village connected as well to bring people into uptown to Lacapaki and even over to West Sedona, there's a lot of tourists that stay in the village, and every day they get in their cars, they drive into town, they spend some time here, drive around a little bit, and then at the end of the day, they get in their car and drive back. So of course, there's a lot of traffic on 179. So that's one thing we need to fix. But I want to address the capital projects. There's been a bit of discussion about all these great capital projects we need to do, but I am concerned about that. A pledge that we've got on our slate is capital projects greater than $5 million need to go to the voters for approval. And I think that's just critical to, one is for awareness so that we don't get surprised when we see things happening after decisions have been made. But when we hear about a $30 or $35 million bus barn, that's awful. And we heard during the mayor debate, well, that hasn't actually been approved. Yes, but there's been over $1 million that the city has spent on engineering studies and plans. And if you've seen the plans, they've got workout room, they've got wellness room, they've got a quiet room, there's another office for the HR manager in it, and so forth and so on. It's kind of nuts. And we see a similar thing, the Intercept lot right here at the corner by the high school, a plan to pave it or put a parking garage up. They've budgeted $25 million. The $49 million to buy the municipal court building and Parks and Rec over on Brewer Road. These are not approved yet, but they're on the list. The city wants to do them, and the council hasn't slapped it down. It's ridiculous. So that's what I'd talk about.
Thank you. The next question will be 2 minutes. Jean, you'll be first to answer. What are the top 3 issues facing Sedona in the next 2 years, and how would you meet these challenges? Please be specific. What resources are needed to address these issues? How would you be visible and transparent and engage the community in identifying and addressing the issues?
It's a very big question for 2 minutes. I would say top 3 are going to be, as far as, I guess it depends on from whose perspective, but I would say the top 3 would be traffic, coming up with a really good plan to manage fire, and I would say getting the finances of the city in order. And so I guess I can unpack those. I think traffic we just all talked about a bit, so I'll probably try to glaze over that one a little bit, but we definitely, like I said before, could have better roadway infrastructure, better shuttles, and there's just a lot of opportunity in that area. But with regards to fire management, I think even just in a small way, the know your zone signs are very tiny. And a lot of people don't know about what their evacuation route is. And even at the hotels, if we were to have an emergency, I've lived here long enough to be through a couple fires where we were evacuated. And there's no mandate or easy route for people that are staying in a hotel room, which represents more people than probably even live in Sedona. And I think that would be something that's really important to address soon, is identifying evacuation routes, making simple messaging, and having a really strong plan that could be communicated to people that are even visiting our community. And beyond that, involving the community into improving the fire management programs in our, along with the Forest Service, what we can do to mitigate some of that risk. Lastly, I'll just briefly touch on fiscal accountability. I'm an accountant. When I was looking over the budgets this year, I looked at the audit reports that came back, and there was $4 million missing between schedules and what was on the general ledger. And that, I'm done.
Thank you. Melissa.
I think you're going to hear a lot of the same things from us. Traffic obviously is still an issue as far as all of us are concerned. I think evacuation, I think as it's getting drier, as we've already seen that there's been 10 to 15 small fires in the area. I don't know if you are on like watch duty, so you have an understanding that could be a really bad fire season for us. I don't even think they have a season anymore, fires. And connection, us being able to create a stronger community. The traffic, we're working on it. We're doing our best for Park Once with transportation. I think for those of us who live here, the on-demand shuttles just need to be expanded to 7 days a week and much longer in time frame instead of emulating the trail shuttles. I think evacuation, we have a plan. We have an evacuation manager. Well, he's an emergency manager, and he's going to be presenting to council in probably next month on what his plans are. There are a lot of times we can't actually show you plans because you don't want bad actors to know what your evacuation plans are either. So sometimes the details that you might want, we're not able to give you. And then community. I think we've spent too much time being divisive in this community, and we need to start to pull together to find ways in which we can work together and we can play together. And I think being able to play together is one way in which we start to work together, to understand each other and to enjoy our company. So I think that traffic evacuation strategies and connection are probably the most important things for us to be working on, and not necessarily in that order.
First thing I'll note is I've been looking for the evacuation signs. My wife and I live in Uptown, and I haven't seen them. I've been looking. And if it wasn't for Mark Tinbrook's annual report, I wouldn't even know what evacuation zone I'm in, because I certainly can't find it on the city website, as we've discussed. So we've got to improve the evacuation communication. And frankly, I find it very difficult to understand, to put it nicely, why we would think we can't communicate to residents about an evacuation plan because we need to keep it a secret. That's just kind of weird, and I don't understand it. We need to change that. Some of the other things that are important, I talked about resident involvement and the citizen commissions. I think that's absolutely critical, and to get that going right away. And the commissions need to be enabled and empowered to actually get something to be done. The citizen working groups that we have now, Jean mentioned he's been on the finance working group for the last few years. I've talked to other citizens that have been involved in other commissions, and they all relate the same thing. It's so frustrating. The staff ignore them. They make their recommendations, and then the staff goes and does what they want, and the council approves it. And that's just backwards. We got to change that. And with citizen commissions, they would report directly to the council, and staff would be required to support and work with them. I think that's critical to get in place. I mentioned the $5 million voter approval. Again, we've got to get control of this capital spending and stop doing so many projects, slow it down, and make sure that we really have citizen engagement and involvement. And then finally, I'd like to say one of the day one things that we would need to do, two of the day one things we would do, one is initiate with the commission on finance a forensic audit on the parking garage and Forest Road projects, because there's a lot of problems there. It's not just crazy cost overruns. And second, a hiring moratorium so we can figure out what's going on with our city staff, the organization. Over 200 city staffers, over a quarter of them earn over $100,000 a year.
Thank you.
I think our biggest problem is larger than all the rest of them, and that is vitriol. There's no practical problem that we have in this town that we can't solve together unless we're fighting about everything and every decision we try to make. And we're calling each other names or being mean to each other publicly, privately, whatever. I know that that's a national problem right now. It's a state problem right now. And unfortunately, it's become a city problem right now. And I believe that the citizens of Sedona can come together in a smart, intelligent way and solve pretty much every one of the issues that we have, unless we're fighting each other. So I'm going to pledge right now not to say anything mean about these other guys and Melissa at this table, because it's just not helpful. It doesn't move us forward towards any real solutions. It just gets to finger pointing and the rest of it. So that's number one. Beyond that, traffic and housing are, I think, are our biggest challenges that we need to fix. We've talked a lot about traffic already. I've talked about the Sedona Motion projects, the capital improvements, the shuttle system. And, you know, the last part of that, though, is the sidewalks and the shared use pathways, because they also take cars off the road. People that want to ride their bike to the store or want to ride their bike or walk to visit their neighbors, you know, if there's no sidewalk and you're stuck walking on the road, especially when the light's starting to wane at sunset, it can be dangerous in some neighborhoods. And so having a sidewalk or shared use pathway is going to help with that, that traffic scenario. And the housing, again, okay, I have to stop, but housing.
The next question is 2 minutes. Melissa, you'll be the first. And the question is, if Sedona voters do not renew home rule and the city must operate under Arizona's state expenditure limitation, what changes would be necessary to the city's budget, services, and long-term priorities?
Well, that's a simple question to answer in 2 minutes. If you go under base, which is what the standard limitation is, you have about $15 million that you can do on what the government says are required services. The rest of the money that people talk about is our debt, because you can always pay back debt. That's not part of your base limit. So one of the things that happens with base is it does encourage communities to acquire debt, because with debt, you can just use the money that's sitting in the bank. And we're going to have a lot of money sitting in the bank. So, because remember, we're still getting to collect taxes. This isn't about taxes. This is about how much you can spend. When we start to talk about base, a lot of the things that I mentioned in when my opening or on my vote yes on the proposition, you're going to lose them. So things that you rely on or you like, the pool, it's going to close, because Parks and Rec is not part of requirement, only maintenance of Parks and Recs, and that's Public Works. So you can expect parks to close. All the things we talked about that we give as service contracts, the library, community center, all of that's gone. All the money we say we invest in small grants and the large grants we gave, that money's gone. It's focused on basically 3 Ps: police, potholes, and park maintenance. And that's really where we'd be spending a lot of our money. So, and some of that will be cut down as well, just to let you know. Some whole departments will be gone, and in some cases, just parts of departments will be gone. And as Tony mentioned earlier, the good people, why would they stay? So we have to look at all of that when we start to talk about base. Yes, we could do a base adjustment, but it's not required by law that one is asked for. So we could just be looking at 15 million.
I do expect a permanent base adjustment, or at least a one-time override. We would have a year, so there would be plenty of time to work on something, get broad input, and come up with something that could go to the voters that would be approved. But let's just imagine that didn't happen, and we really did have this limit of what we could spend. Remember Jean's point a bit earlier. In the fiscal year that ended a year ago, that's the last that we have the audited report for, the actual expenditure for operating the city, not including capital spend, not including debt service, was just under $32 million. $32 million. So there's actually enough money available even under this, this sort of worst case scenario to run things. All of the things that you just heard would likely not happen. There might need to be a few cuts, but again, the sky won't fall, the world won't end. This is fear-mongering, and it's ridiculous.
Well, I don't know if it's fear-mongering to just tell the truth and let you know the things that are going to be cut. Yeah, it's scary, so I guess you could call it fear-mongering. The fact of the matter is, it would represent drastic change. yes, we would certainly, or at least I would advocate that we certainly would try to immediately move towards a PBA, because we would now be in an emergency situation that we brought upon ourselves. Hopefully we won't do that. But if that does happen, it will take us back to the days where we had a $30 million budget. And guess what? Back then, we talked about sidewalks, but we didn't put in sidewalks. We talked about having a shuttle system, but we didn't put in a shuttle system because we didn't have the money for it. We talked about capital improvements, but those capital improvements largely didn't occur. So, yeah, we could run the city. We could keep the lights on. We lose most of our police force and most of our city staff. Probably the first thing I would do is beg them not to quit right away, because we need them. They're smart, capable, educated people who work hard for our city, and they deserve far more credit than they often get. And so personally, I feel like it would be a disaster, and we would be going backwards instead of making progress go in the direction that makes our lives better in this city.
I would just like to clarify that there's multiple levels to what you're allowed to spend under the base. The 15.4 million is the state base, but there's also money from state funds that are to take care of roads. It's like it's a sharing program that they would share some of the gas tax to maintain your roads. And there's also debt service. And there is also something that's, I think, never been discussed. A couple years ago when we got a new investment advisor, I spoke to him about how poor the city's investments were, and at the time they were yielding about 1% on the money we have in the bank. And we looked it over, and he presented the case, and he sold out basically everything, and now the city gets about 4%. But we do have the opportunity to cover our employees' pensions almost completely, if not more than in totality, with reallocating those investments to something that's a little bit higher yield. And that would take us up to, because there's a limit to what you can invest in with cities' operating funds. But for pensions, there's a little bit more, there's a little more loose options. We could probably get 8 to 10%, and that would bring us to about $29 million. So it would be about 10% under, with a little creativity of where we are now. We would have to make some cuts for sure. If we weren't able to pass a permanent base adjustment or a one-time override, we would have to make cuts. It would be about 10%, and I don't think that it would be that drastic.
Thank you. The next question is 1 minute, and Rich, you'll be up first. And the question is, what role should the city of Sedona play in addressing workforce housing needs, and what strategies would you support to increase housing options for the local workforce and year-round residents? It's 1 minute.
Great. Well, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. The primary reason affordable housing is so difficult to build here is because of the city's own rules and fees. I mentioned all of these codes and requirements, the Red Rock News article that estimated $100,000 to $200,000 of cost. And the vote last year that the council did to double the development impact fees. That's where the problem is. We've got to cut the red tape. I've talked to so many people that have told me horror stories about how hard it is to get a permit for this or a sewer connection for that. I talked to somebody who was putting a casita on their house, and the city wanted them to go through a whole new sewer connection. It was going to be a new sewer connection fee and everything else, even though they were connecting into their existing sewer. The red tape and the rules are onerous and complex, and it's really embarrassing that the city has allowed this to go on so long.
The city has identified a need for 775 new housing units in a stratified manner over the next 10 years. And they already have about 200 units in work right now. And the strategy, I don't know what they call it, but what I call it is like a postage stamp approach. The city's buying properties, making a public-private partnership with builders and putting units on, like the one on Shelby that just was completed, which had 30 units and about 300 people applying for it. So that tells you about the needs in the community in case there's any doubt about that. But I like that approach. It's a good approach because if the city owns the property or puts it into a trust, we can prevent it from becoming a short-term rental in the future. Because I believe that if the city uses city money to try to help with affordable housing problem, which I think they should, we need to make sure that they don't rapidly turn into short-term rentals.
Jean.
Yeah, thank you. I actually would be on the other side of the table. I don't love the idea of the city taking the housing fund and giving a lot of incentives to developers and making it really difficult for individual citizens to be able to afford to build their own property or to buy something that's helpful. And we do have a massive housing fund. I would be much more apt to use that fund to give to develop areas and land that we already have to allow people to build smaller properties, manufactured homes, to be able to have even rent-to-own programs, down payment assistance programs, finance education programs for people so they can learn about the process of going through it and simplify the entire process of how people would go about building their own property, so that it does put it more in the hands of individuals, and they're not just indentured renters for life that are always going to be beholden to rents going up and paying 30% of their income forever, that they can actually own something in our community.
So the city already has a down payment program, in case you're not aware of that, where you can get it up to $40,000 towards a down payment on a home. We have Rent Local, which is a program to try and encourage people who own short-term rentals to do long-term rentals instead by subsidizing some of that money. As far as the other is concerned, I would be in favor of taking multiple of our properties and putting them into a land trust. It does a lot of really great things when you do that. Short-term rentals being one of them. The other is that you could do rent-to-own programs, and they don't have to be apartments. They could be townhomes, they could be cottage homes, they could be, small starter homes like one I grew up in, 1,000, 1,200 square feet. So there's lots of ways in which we can do this, and actually the community development director, Tony Allender, has brought up many of these. It's called the missing middle, and that's what we want to do. And it isn't just for workers in the sense of the people who work in the hospitality. Well, you're just going to have to ask me if you want to know what I was going to say.
Thank you. The next question will be 2 minutes, and Tony, we'll start with you. The Western Gateway Plan envisions future development, transportation improvements, housing opportunities, and community amenities in Sedona's western entrance area. What aspects of the plan do you support? What concerns do you have? And what would be your priorities for implementation?
That's a great question. I'm pretty sure I won't get through my answer in 2 minutes, but I'm going to give it my best shot. I'll talk fast. So first of all, let's talk about the amphitheater. I was fully in support, and I kind of wish the council would have done this sooner, but of giving CP2 Group a letter authorizing them to go build a business plan so that they could bring back to us a complete proposal. Because do I want an amphitheater? Kinda, but it depends on the details, right? The devil's in the details. Where are they going to park the cars? We need an answer for that. Is it financially viable? I have talked to people who sat on the board when the amphitheater failed before, and they're very adamant of the fact that it just can't work. It didn't work before. They don't think it can work again. However, that's why we're authorizing CP2 to go build a business plan so they can show us whether it can or can't work, right? Why make decisions in ignorance when we have the opportunity to get more information? The last part of the amphitheater that I feel strongly about is I believe we need to retain the right to decide how many concerts would be shown and what time of year they would be shown. If we turn that over to Ticketmaster or Live Nation, of course, they're going to want to do concerts when the town is full of tourists, which is exactly the last thing I would want to see. The proposal for having concerts and attractions occur during our downtimes to keep our businesses having some level of income and keep the employees of those businesses from getting furloughed. I'm interested in that concept. As far as housing, I do think there's room to put some housing in there. I've also heard that it's difficult to do affordable housing there because of the geography, but I haven't seen that from an engineer yet. So as a city councilman, I would want to see actual engineering on that to find out whether, in fact, it's doable or not. So to me, the details are important. And the last thing I'll say, I know she's giving me the flag here, is, yeah, I'm done.
Okay. You know, when I think that's just such a wonderful piece of land, and I do remember when that venue was open, and it was just a really a lovely place to see a concert. I remember seeing Dave Brubeck and Nora Jones, and I won't reminisce too much, but I do think that before we embark on it, we do have to, my concerns would be that we do have to look into things like noise mitigation and what traffic and parking and how are people going to get in and out? Are there fire concerns? There's a lot to look at. So I don't think that's something that we can dive into quickly without a lot more research. My other concern is putting housing there is going to be too expensive. And what I think will end up happening is there will be a couple hundred very expensive to very expensive units, and maybe 10-20% of the project will be somewhat price restricted or subsidized to appease the council to get that project passed. But I don't think that it will actually be anything meaningful that will help the community. What I would love to see there, though, is that we expand things that are for, I think, community and visitors alike. We could put a better botanical garden there. We could have museums. I know Sedona Art Museum would like to be out there. We could have fairground space. In some ways, I think we've outgrown Posse Grounds, at least from a parking perspective. We could put easy trails. A lot of the trails in Sedona are more difficult. There's not that many that are simple and beautiful, I would say. You could do an art walk. SIF can go in there. Really anything that promotes the arts, community gathering, or something that we can enjoy nature and the beauty of Sedona. That's what I would be very much in favor of putting there.
Thank you. Melissa?
So we've already told SIF that they can have some of the land that's out there. I don't know if you're aware of that. And so they're working with the city right now to figure out what that means. There's land out there that can't be built on because the hill will fall down, basically. So you have to reserve that land away. When the questionnaire went out, what came back as number one was a festival grounds, and number two was gatherings or rec center, and number three was gathering space. Number four was an amphitheater, but no size was mentioned on the amphitheater. The rec center and the festival grounds and the gathering space, they have been directed, staff has been directed to go and start exploring that, finding out what that means. How much land would you need? What will that cost? Sort of all those sorts of things. As far as an amphitheater goes, I'm not against an amphitheater. I don't know that we need a 5,500 seat amphitheater, but it would be nice for us, for the Red Dirt concert, for instance. It's outgrown Posse Grounds. So, and then I think about the people who are on the rocks, as I call them. Jazz on the rocks, fiddler on the rocks, piano on the rocks. Wouldn't that be a nice space for them to go? And for all of the people out there who really want to be on this stage, as opposed to me who doesn't want to be on this stage, what about Shakespeare in the Park? So all of those sorts of things just feel like that's the right space to do it. One of the things that I really want to say is that that is not pristine land. There was an amphitheater there and it was plowed for parking. The biggest pristine land that we own as a city is the Dells, where we've been doing nothing but spraying water on it for 30 years. So don't think of that as pristine land. It is developable land. I don't know much, I'm not an engineer, about housing, but I think that that is a place for us, and it's a place that should have great benefit for our community. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what they'll come up with and how they'll master plan.
So my first point on the cultural park is simple. I will respect the will of the voters. You heard me say that quite a bit tonight. but we have Proposition 403, the Sedona Cultural Park Preservation Act, on the ballot in July, and it will determine whether housing can be developed on the site. And whatever the voters decide, I'll support that outcome. I was surprised and disappointed that the city and the city council chose to sue in an attempt to prevent residents from voting on the issue. And I was pleased that the court dismissed that lawsuit with prejudice. So that did clear the way for us to make the vote on this important decision. But beyond that, my vision for the cultural park is to turn this 41-acre site into a true resident-focused civic and cultural hub. This should include generous open spaces, community event areas, artist installations, and I'd like to see a Native American museum and art center. And we could have the cultural park form a golden triangle with Tlaquepaque and Uptown. So some cool things that we could do. Any plan must protect the Red Rock views and preserve natural open space. Regarding the amphitheater, also known as the Georgia Frontier Performing Arts Pavilion, my support is conditional. My wife and I love going to live music, and especially outdoor concerts. And our Red Rock Dirt Series that we do here in town is phenomenal, but we don't have a lot of space out at Posse Grounds. So I really do like it, but my support is conditional. I would only support the restoration if it's funded entirely with private dollars, zero taxpayer money, and any proposal must also clearly demonstrate how it will mitigate the traffic, the noise, sound spillover, and parking impacts. And then ultimately, I believe residents should decide the future. So whatever proposal comes forward, if we like it on the council, it still should go to voters for final approval. And ultimately, the cultural park should serve Sedona residents and enhance our quality of life, not become another development project.
Thank you. This will be our last question. John, you will be starting. It's a 1-minute question, and it is, effective local government often requires collaboration among people with differing perspectives. How do you handle situations where there is significant disagreement on an issue before the council?
I love decisions with significant disagreement, actually. I find a lot of times when what I love about, well, I should say I grew up, I would say like constantly surrounded by very strong differing opinions. And what I love is that I think you really come up with the best solutions when everyone doesn't have the same ideologies, the same backgrounds, the same perspectives, because then you really get to take the best pieces of what everybody brings to the table. And instead of being an echo chamber, you get to hear perspectives from other people that you may not have considered based on the path that you've walked in life or your profession or whatever it is. So in general, I think I'm pretty peaceful person, and I enjoy the discourse of hearing all sides of an argument to really come, or a difficult situation to come to really what's a great solution for everyone.
Thank you. Melissa?
I don't know if anyone's noticed how long council sessions go, but that's because we don't agree. And we spend a lot of time trying to work through what we're disagreeing on. How do we understand each other? And how do we look at the arguments that are being made by staff, by other members of council? We listen to what people who come up and speak for 3 minutes. You take all of that and you have a long conversation. And you try and figure out what the right perspective is to have, not just for that particular issue, but for that issue in the context of all the other things that you're doing in Sedona. Because it's that weaving of all those ideas, it's that long-term vision of where we want to go. It's about thinking about the unintended consequences that helps make strong and solid decisions. And do we make mistakes? Of course we do, we're humans. And we sometimes have to unravel those and change the course of direction.
Rich?
Very much what John said. I believe strongly. I've got a lot of experience bringing different views together and coming up with a solution that everybody can support. You've got to bring people together and have those difficult conversations. I would point out that I think the city has taken somewhat of an opposite path the past 5 or 10 years. So many decisions were made in defiance, really, of some of the feedback that was coming in. Even the decision on the parking garage, there was quite a bit of opposition, but rather than work towards a consensus, the city just blasted forward, and I think that has to change. We need to find ways to bring people together.
Tony?
Well, I've sat on several different boards throughout my life, and I have a fair amount of experience working with folks with different opinions. And I think the first thing is you have to have an open mind, and you have to respect the other people that are on the board, even when you disagree with them. And I know from my days on a union board, you know, we would have a guy that would talk and talk and talk, and everybody would roll their eyes and just kind of tune him out. But, you know, like every 100th time, he would come up with some gem that would save the day from us making a big mistake that everybody was just going along to get along with. And so I really feel like it's important to not only listen to what the other people are saying, but have an open enough mind to go, you know what? He's actually right. I'm going to change my opinion and take in what he's saying. And I think that to be on, I have to stop.
Okay, we are at the time now for closing statements. We will do the closing statements in reverse order of the opening statements. So Melissa will be our first speaker. 1 minute.
If I'm reelected, I'll keep working to strengthen our community and deepen our shared identity, because Sedona is at its best when we move forward together. I'll work with residents and businesses to make our shuttles more effective so more cars stay parked and our streets stay quieter. I'll continue championing projects that keep Sedona clean, green, resilient, and sustainable, protecting the natural beauty and the peaceful character that defines us. I'll support responsible investments, safeguarding our land and ensuring Sedona remains a place where nature and community thrive side by side. And I'll push for a clear, transparent government with strong performance metrics, outside audits, and easy-to-understand dashboards, helping everyone see how decisions are made and dollars are spent. I believe in a vibrant Sedona where families, entrepreneurs, artists, seniors, and visitors thrive, inspired by the Red Rocks. If you see that same future, I invite you to join me, not just in re-electing me, but in actively shaping the next chapter of Sedona together. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Sean?
Thank you. I want to thank the League of Women Voters and the Chamber of Commerce and everybody who spent time putting this together and giving our community the opportunity to hear from all the candidates. I really love this town. 30 years ago, I was a student here and acted on this stage. And today, I'm a dad and raising my 4 kids in the same community. I have a vested interest in Sedona that goes beyond politics, maybe selfishly. I just want to keep my kids here forever. But what I've shared tonight comes down to this. I think Sedona deserves a council that respects your money, partners with the community rather than fighting it, and makes decisions with the next generation in mind. Thank you so much for being here, and your vote is your voice, and I'd be humbled to carry it to council for you.
The first thing I want to say is I hope you all feel good about the candidates you're looking at, because the gentleman to my left and the folks to my right, they're all very smart people. They're dedicated people. They want to do the best for Sedona. So whichever one of us you elect, I don't think is going to be a problem. We may disagree on strategies and our ideas about the direction we should go in right away. But the fact of the matter is there's good people that you're going to be voting for, including Lita, who's not here. So I think we're in good hands one way or the other. I come from the perspective of having raised my family here, having coached many of the kids that have grown up here in Sedona. I'm currently coaching the high school football team, and I promise I will leave practice early to get to city council meetings if you elect me. And so I just want to say that for me, I want to continue what the city's been doing. I disagree gently with some of my colleagues here that they haven't done a good job stewarding our money. I believe they have. They have, this last council put away $58 million into our rainy day fund, and I'll shut up.
Thank you to the League, to the Chamber, and the Lodging Council for hosting the forum, and to everyone here tonight for the chance to share my thoughts, and for all of us. I'm running for City Council because I believe Sedona's residents deserve a government that listens carefully, plans thoughtfully, and delivers practical results. My experience has taught me how to bring people together, ask good questions, control costs, and follow through on commitments. Once elected, I will focus on making city government truly responsive, protecting what makes Sedona special, and finding realistic solutions to the challenges we face together. Our opponents gave it their best shot for the past 4 years. There's been little progress. We have the same problems. Despite spending tens of millions of dollars, they tried their best, but it didn't work. They say they need more time, and that means they need even more money. It's time for new leadership in a new direction, and it's time to put Sedona residents first. I'm grateful for your time and your engagement. Tonight, I hope to earn your vote, and once elected, earn your support in the months ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the candidates for being here as a part of the forum, and thank you, audience, for your attention and participation. And if you want to applaud, we can do that now. I would like you to remind you that Election Day for the primary election is July 21st. The last day to register to vote, to change your party registration, or update your address is June 22nd. Ballots will be mailed, and the first day to file an early ballot is June 24th. Completed ballots can be returned by mail or dropped off at an election location in Sedona or at the county election offices. Thank you again, candidates, for being here, and to all the voters. And please remember that voting is our power. Thank you.